Yipee-Ki-Yay, Mr. Falcon.
Welcome back, everybody. We have a very, very special episode today because we're going to be talking about some of the first movies I ever got obsessed with as a little child and probably shouldn't have been watching.
The word obsessed doesn't really do it justice.
Yeah, I don't know, man. What do you call it? Like, they're part.
I don't know.
These movies are like a part of my life, and they kind of have been as far back as I can remember.
It's informed a lot of your personality.
I guess, yeah. It's kind of informed part of my profession. Like, yeah, it's a little embarrassing sometimes. I don't really talk about it very much in certain company. But yet Rambo, dude.
Rambo.
Fucking John Rambo. I've been a Stallone fan since I was a tiny little child because of Rocky and Rambo. But to be honest, Rambo was first. There was this is not that weird, though. I want to just point that out for people of our generation, because there was a fucking Rambo cartoon when we were children. A full-on Saturday morning Rambo and Friends cartoon.
Rambo and Friends.
Yeah, it was called like The Force of Freedom, like Rambo, The Force of Freedom. And they had the music from the movie and everything. It was right after the second one came out. Because the second one...
Force freedom upon you?
Yeah.
Whether you want it or not.
I remember the bad guys were called like Havoc. And it was an acronym for something. I don't remember what. And yeah, they did bad stuff, and then Rambo and his dudes flew around the world enforcing freedom upon them.
That's incredible. I didn't know anything about this.
Oh yeah, it was a real thing. Around for like 2 seasons. You can find the intro and like random episodes on YouTube.
Do you own it?
I do not. I actually don't. I looked for it one time and I couldn't find it, and then I saw it on DVD one time and it was like ridiculously expensive. I'm like, yeah, it ain't worth it.
Oh boy!
But I used to watch it like every day as a kid. I loved it, and that's what there were a whole line of Rambo toys when we were kids, and that's what they were based off of, was the TV show. Because they all had that symbol from the TV show. It was, I swear to God, it was a circle with an American flag and I think an eagle, like on it. Just Force of Freedom. And
Force of Freedom.
If Rambo went anywhere where it was really, really cold and utterly inappropriate for him to be shirtless, he would put on a sleeveless hoodie with the logo on the chest, and that's how he would rock. A sleeveless hoodie and jeans was his cash
hoodie.
look.
Yeah, you know, your standard military issue sleeveless hoodie.
And there was an animated sequence of him gearing up every time before they went into action, tying the headband and everything. It was
I gotta
ridiculous.
find this.
Yeah, dude, the intro with all that shit is on YouTube. Check it out. It's hilarious. But that brings up a good point in that the character and the idea of it really went far from where it started. I mean, you've seen First Blood a few times, right?
Yes, I have. And I'll say this. I didn't have much exposure at all to Rambo until I met you. And like to say that Dave's a fan, it's like this is one of those things where like if you ask someone to describe themselves to people that they don't know in a couple of short phrases, I might say like, "Oh, I'm Tom. I'm a father of two. I enjoy music and I'm a guitar player." Like being a Rambo
This would
fan
be in my list.
it would have to be in that short punch list of things to know about Dave.
I cut my wedding cake with a Rambo knife.
Yep. You almost cut more than that with a Rambo knife.
Yeah, I almost cut my finger off one time. The lady at Things Remembered in the mall was quite aghast when I brought that knife in to get it etched or whatever. What the fuck's it called?
Engraved.
Yeah, that's the one. I don't know if the machine's big enough for this, but I think we can do it.
That's really funny. You brought that to Things Remembered.
Things fucking remembered, yeah. Some college
God.
girl's like, what? Okay.
I gotta call my manager.
Yeah, man. She took it in stride. She just took my money, and my wife was totally on board with it. She didn't even hesitate, which I knew I chose right.
That's incredible.
Yeah, for me, I watched the second one first. That was my first Rambo movie. Because again, I mentioned it more than once. My dad had some weird thing about, like, I could watch all the violence I wanted, but he didn't want me watching movies with a lot of cussing in it. So they barely talk in Rambo 2, and there is an F-bomb, but it's only one. So I guess that was
you
okay.
could deal with that.
So I used to watch that a lot on taped off of HBO, because there was the old HBO intro in front of it. I'll never forget. And then that old TriStar logo.
With the horse?
With the horse, yeah. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, my God, I loved it. I loved that movie so much, and I truly can't... I don't know why, as a kid, I liked it so much. Like, I can talk about why I like it now as an adult and everything, but I don't know what it was about it as like a little child that got my attention, because I sure didn't understand what was going on, really. All I can think is like the bright colors and the pretty explosions. That's really all I can think.
They were pretty.
They were pretty. There's an explosion in the very first frame of that fucking movie. And that's I don't know of any other movie that really does that, the very first second. All right, so I mean, let's just kind of go through them real quick, and we're gonna get way less detailed as we get deeper into the franchise, because there's not that much to talk about toward the end.
Yeah, it doesn't deserve a lot of detail the further you go on.
Well, I guess we're being a little harsh. It's really the last one. It's just the last one that it wasn't so great. I have very mixed feelings about it, but we'll get there. But the one everyone can agree on being a great movie, just all alone, standalone by itself, is the first one. First Blood was it's become a classic. It kickstarted what you would think of as the modern action movie genre. I mean, before that, you're really looking at movies from the 70s like Deliverance, and
Oh, God.
some of the movies Charles Bronson made. That's really what you're talking about. Like, you're talking about Guns of Navarone type shit. When like, what was an action movie in the 70s? They really, like, other than grindhouse stuff and exploitation movies. That's what you're talking about. You're talking about war movies, and you're talking about like espionage, spy movies, James Bond. That was action movies in the 70s until until
but
Rambo
even
came
then,
along.
like James Bond is, but there's a bit of action, but it's also a lot of like, like espionage and stealth and people sneaking around and double cross. It's a totally different. It's a genre film. It's a spy flick.
Yeah.
That has
And
action scenes in it. Then you look at Rambo, and yeah, you have like this prototype for what action movies turned into, and a lot of it has to do with like the weapons cache that he got a hold of.
Yeah, and like that's part of it. And also I think it's this continuing theme throughout the life of the franchise. It's there very early, like you said, as a prototype, and then it gets not blamed, but it gets saddled with everything that came after it. Like the first Blood is not that violent of a movie if you look at it in context, especially with everything that came after it. Up until then, it was considered a pretty violent movie because it was
like more than 2 people died.
Do 2 people die in this movie?
Yeah, you know what? Now, and when I say that, I don't know how many people died in the.
I'm pretty sure there's only one casualty in the entire movie.
Yeah, isn't it some guy falls out of a helicopter?
Yeah. Art Galt falls out of the helicopter.
Who?
His name's Art Galt, Deputy Art Galt. I don't know. I didn't name him. He's an asshole, so they gave him a shitty name.
Yeah, it tracks.
Yeah, and it was kind of like a semi-accident. He unbuckles himself so he could try to shoot him better, and Rambo throws a rock, and it cracks the windshield of the chopper, and pilot pitches, and he falls out. Like, it was very deliberately done that way. The book, First Blood by David Morrell, is not like this. It's very, very, very different. Rambo is really unhinged, just super damaged and super violent. He kills all of the deputies in the book.
Oh.
He kills the 2 hunters that he happens upon. Like, he fucking kills everyone in the book. And he dies also at the end. Troutman shoots him. Teasel dies, he dies, and Troutman's like the last one standing. It's very, very different. I didn't meet him, but I talked to the author once at a Q&A panel at a convention in Vegas. It was kind of cool.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah,
see, I didn't know that. So I have not read that book. That sounds interesting. But he kills everyone.
Yeah,
what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, the author was a college professor when he wrote it, and the way he tells it was that a lot of his students were guys who'd fought in the war and were going to college now on the GI Bill, and he's like talked about it feeling like a dick, trying to teach these people things when, in his opinion, they had a lot more life experience than him to draw upon. So he started talking to them after class and basically interviewing them about their experiences and how they felt coming home, and how they felt the war had affected the country and the population as a whole. And the book is really meant to be a very bold-faced allegory for the war. Like, Rambo represents not only veterans, but the wounded, damaged soul of America, I guess. Damaged by the war, damaged by Nixon and everything that came along with it. The 70s, basically.
Yeah.
And, like, because you have to remember, the war didn't end until 74, and it didn't, like, super end until 75. And this movie, it was made, the book came out, in that era, and the movie was made in 82. It was released in 82. So you're talking 5-6 years after the war was over. So all this stuff was really still very, very relevant, and they hadn't started making a lot of movies about the war and what it did to the country yet. Not a lot of honest looks at it. There were a couple, but you didn't get that shit until the 80s. Platoon and all those, milestone Vietnam War movies, Hamburger Hill and Born on the 4th, all that shit came well after First Blood. That was all deep into the 80s. So I try to remember, like, the context of when this movie came out, and that it helps explain why it hit so hard. And the ending is just fucking wild for the time. for 1982.
Let me ask
Wild.
you a question. Why the change from the book to the movie? You mentioned the ending. The ending of the book sounds completely different from the movie, and plus, like all
Yeah.
the body count. Do you know why they made that change when they went to put it on film?
Yeah, well, it was mostly Stallone insisted on it because he thought otherwise it would be an utterly hopeless message. They did film another ending where he does die. Trautman shoots him, but it's not like it's like a very sad scene. Rambo kind of grabs his hand with the gun and he gets shot in the chest and falls back and dies. That would have been, if they had done that, they would have been throwing away literally billions of dollars if they hadn't continued the franchise.
And a cartoon deal.
And a cartoon deal. But I mean, yeah, imagine that message, not to just veterans, but to everybody watching it too. It's like there's a real hopelessness to that. And, I think you see, if this movie had been made in 78, 77, 78, that's probably the ending you would have gotten. And I think there was kind of the sea change to start having a little bit more positivity instead of everything being such a fucking downer in popular movies. And, they filmed the alternate ending and they screened it, and it didn't screen very well. Like they gave it a shot, too. So they went with the ending where he lives instead. And, yeah, that's kind of it. And it's hard to root for somebody, especially back then, even as an anti-hero, if they waste like half a dozen deputies in the woods, cutting them down with traps and a knife and shit.
It was
pretty brutal.
It sounds like it was a brutal book.
Yeah. It's not very well written. Like, it's not, like, it's super, almost pulpy. Like, it's very pop fiction-y. These the symbolism isn't very deep. It's all very plain.
Symbology.
The symbology there. But there was something that was a neat bit in the book that didn't make it into the movie, and I want to mention something about that too. Like, this movie had so much going against it. Like, First Blood was almost destined to be a fucking bomb. I say that because it was a problem script. It had been floating around Hollywood for years and years and years, and nobody could get it made. And I guess as they've got a little further away from the war, opinions changed and things came together and they were able to get it made. But it had so many roadblocks, and right until the very end, it was almost shelved and shit canned. But there was an element in the book, the Teasel, who's played by Brian Dennehy, he's the town sheriff. It was very plain that he was a Korean War vet in the book.
Oh, okay.
And it was like this dichotomy between that generation and the generation that came after. So think of it kind of like that 70s show. Like Brian Dennehy, Sheriff Teasel is Red Foreman. And he, Rambo's the generation after that. And he kind of had that World War II attitude. Like, we went and we fought and it was fucking horrible. And then we didn't bitch about it. We just came home and got drunk at the VFW or whatever.
Right.
And it was just a misunderstanding between generations and a stark reminder of what warfare became after Korea and after World War II and what the Cold War was. But I always thought that was really interesting. And there's a relic of it left in the movie. In Teasel's office, behind him, behind his chair, you see a shadow box. And there's 3 medals in it. And one is very clearly a Purple Heart. So just from that, you can infer that he was a veteran, and from his age, most likely.
You okay?
Yeah, there's someone singing very loudly outside my house.
Oh.
I
I
think
thought
they're
the internet
walking.
froze.
No, I think they're walking. It was just very strange. It was very loud. It was right there. There's some drunk walking away. That's Jersey, everybody. That's Jersey. All right. All right. So yeah,
Purple Heart.
and yeah, because one of them is a Purple Heart, he had to have been in combat, and it's the only war that lines up. So this movie was originally, like, to give you an idea of how much shit that got cut. The first version of this film was 3 hours long.
Holy shit, that's a
Yeah.
long movie.
And Stallone saw it. They screened it for, everyone involved. And he immediately tried to buy the negative so it wouldn't get released. He said in interviews and shit, like, first he thought it was insanely dark. And it is a very dark movie, especially for the time. Like, there's some scenes you can't see much at all, but in the 4K era, it looks amazing. I'll tell you that. It's a great looking disc. But apparently, and I've never seen the original script, but apparently Rambo had all this dialogue. He had tons and tons of lines that they filmed it all, and like he had one-liners, basically, like the equivalent of one-liners, and these stupid little bits of philosophy, like half-baked philosophy and shit. And there were multiple flashbacks. We see very brief flashes of flashbacks to him as a POW in Vietnam, but even on the Blu-ray, there's a deleted scene where there's this whole scene with him and, like, I assume, a Vietnamese prostitute, and there's lovemaking and there's smooching.
Lovemaking?
Yeah, it's so strange. It just didn't fit. It doesn't fit the movie that they ended up, and there was a lot more of that kind of stuff, apparently. So whatever they originally envisioned, they took a stab at, and it just didn't work. And as a last resort, Stallone convinced them to let him do an edit of the movie, of the footage. And he cut it down to 93 minutes from 3 hours.
Stallone edited it.
Yeah, like not physically, but, he worked with an editor to cut it down. And what he cut was most of his lines. And instead, like, used the other characters and the action to tell the story. And Rambo doesn't speak very much in this movie until the end. And that was very much on purpose. And apparently the stuff he cut was so embarrassing that it was easy for him, he said, to go through and get rid of it all because it all just was so bad. It just had to go. And what he ended up with was a template for a one-man army movie with a silent but strong hero who's got some serious shit going on inside.
Silent but violent.
Yeah, and this great pace. Because if you think about this movie stretched out to 3 hours long with a bunch of talking in between everything that happens. You get a 70s movie. You get what we were talking about before, what they thought of as action movies. Condensing it down to this 93-minute film, you gave it this pace, this unrelenting pace. As soon as it gets going, it just keeps churning. There's no love story. There's no, there's no break in the action. There's no, like, bridge. The closest it comes to is when he gets lost in the cave after, they blow him up in the mine. You could kind of look at that as a break, but it's still a dire situation for our hero. So it's a happy accident. The movie all around is just a happy accident.
It's like another Jaws moment, It smacks of Bruce the Shark not working, and it changed what the movie was, and it sounds a lot like that. You didn't need Rambo to philosophize and talk and drop exposition. You didn't need it, so you cut it and you get a different movie.
And he was desperate. Sly was getting kind of desperate at this point because he hadn't had a film that was a success outside of the first two Rockies at this point. Everything else he had made flopped. Paradise Alley, Fist, they tanked, and he transformed himself physically for this movie, lost all kinds of weight, got all shredded up, and went through like freezing shit to film it, got sick in the mountains. Like, it was a brutal shoot. And then could you imagine like seeing this 3-hour cut of the movie
and then it sucks
and wanting to crawl under the fucking seat and hide? Like, that must have been so debilitating. And then it came out, and it was an immediate success. I think they said like they screened it, and within an hour all the foreign distribution rights had been sold.
Jeez.
Like, and that was the thing. Like, not only was it a big success in America, but it was huge overseas. Like, in countries like Turkey and places you wouldn't really expect, it was monstrously popular. And the whole franchise made way more money internationally than it did domestically. And I don't know, man. This movie is really special, I think. I mean, the way it looks is unique. Looking at it now, Richard Crenna, another happy accident. This is some wild shit.
Well,
You
yeah,
ready
I
for
was
this?
going to ask you about this. I had heard that there was somebody else cast for Troutman. I forget who it was. I know Richard Crenna plays Troutman, but I heard that somebody
Kirk
else
Douglas.
was cast.
It was no other than Kirk Douglas.
Oh, I was going to say like Charlton
Spartacus.
Heston or something, but
It was Spartacus himself.
you know what I'm thinking of? Charlton Heston was originally cast to play Quint in Jaws,
Yeah, I remember reading that.
but they
yeah.
didn't want it to be a Charlton Heston movie. They wanted it to be
yeah.
a shark movie. But
Well-
yeah, Kirk Douglas.
Yeah, he did his best to make this a Kirk Douglas movie. Apparently, he had been cast, and they got to the point where he showed up on set the week before they were supposed to start filming, and he had brought a revised script that he had revised himself.
He just did it himself.
Just did it himself, and it basically made Troutman the hero. And then he wrote like an entirely new bizarre ending tacked onto it. And like everyone's like, "Oh, this is great. Thanks for the effort and stuff." But he was serious about it, and he basically said like, "Yeah, we're going to do it this way or I'm walking." Because he was Kirk Douglas, and they were just
And
like,
they said, "See ya."
yeah, and Stallone was like, "I'm fucking Rocky." He's like, "No."
He had a lot of clout still.
And he had a lot of ego too, I'm sure, back then. So yeah, he was like, "No, man, fuck off." So he got on a fucking plane and left, and they scrambled to find somebody, and they found Richard Crenna, who was just coming off doing a play in New York, I think.
And I'm going to be honest, I don't know Richard Crenna from anything but Rocky. Like, that's it. That's all I can remember him from.
Rambo, you mean?
Oh, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Rambo.
Yeah. No, he did a bunch of stuff in the 70s. He did a lot of TV. He did a whole lot of TV. And he did a bunch of character stuff in the 70s and some other stuff in the 80s. But yeah, he wasn't in much else. He certainly wasn't a leading man. And he came out of kind of nowhere. And he got there the week they started filming. Like, they had to feed him his lines because he didn't have any time to learn them. You know, I remember in an interview, he said he was playing a very effeminate gay man in that stage play that he'd been doing. And he's like, the first scene that we filmed is the scene where Troutman shows up and talks to Brian Dennehy in the tent and everything right after Rambo gets done decimating all the deputies. And Crenna said, he's like, if you listen, you can hear I've got a little lilt to my voice still in that scene.
He couldn't
Just a little
shake
too
it.
much. Just a little too much.
I always noticed that about Troutman. It's like he shows up and he just starts saying like, "Well, what did you expect? He's a one-man killing machine. You can't possibly hope to contain him." You know, he's got like this real old-timey feel to his delivery. It sounds
bit,
like an
yeah.
old 40s like propaganda film.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what happens when they pull you off a stage and put you in a uniform and say, act like an army colonel right away. Like, what do, right? I guess you just find a template in your head and go with it. By the end of the film, I think he found a he found a groove. I always thought there was something bizarrely sinister about Troutman in the first one. Like you always got the feeling he knew a lot more than he was letting on.
Well,
And-
yeah, that and he always seemed like he was very proud of the fact that he knew Rambo was going to chew through the deputies.
Yeah, there was definitely a dark pride there for sure. And I think it probably would have been a little more apparent too if they'd kept the Korean War vet motif in there, because I imagine Troutman served in Korea.
Yeah,
going
he would
by
be
his
the right age.
So they probably chewed some of the same dirt. Even it adds another layer to it. It's pretty neat. But yeah, Kirk Douglas they're so lucky they got Richard Crenna to fill in for Kirk Douglas on such short notice. And he ended up being in all the way through Rambo 3. And the only reason I assume if he had been alive when Rambo 4 was made, he would have had a part in it too at some point, because Stallone has always spoken very, very dearly of him. Like everyone, I read about him too. Like he was like one of those just, nobody had anything bad to say about him. Everyone was just like, he's just a classy guy, Just, and he's got that like 70s, like that. He was a very adult man, like Richard Crenna. I can't imagine he was a child. Like you can't look at him and be like, yeah, I could see what he looked like as a teenager.
Little Dickie Crenna.
I don't see it. He was born an old man, that dude with that face. So yeah, I don't know, man.
Happy accidents.
Happy accidents. Something I learned in doing a little prep for this was Rambo rattles off the name of his dead team at one point, right? Troutman actually does it on the radio, and I always wondered where they got the names from, and it's just last names, and one of them is Bronson, right? And I always
think it was a plug?
I always thought that it was like a little nod to Charles Bronson, maybe. Like, I didn't know, maybe they knew each other. I had no idea. And I'd come to find out that they just used the last names of people on the crew.
So there was a Bronson that was like...
He was the costume designer.
Best
Tom
boy
Bronson.
Or something?
Tom Bronson was the costume designer for First Blood, so he was in there. Westmore, Ortega, they're all just crew members, man.
That's kind of cool.
Members. Yeah. So, how do you feel about First Blood?
Oh, I love it. It's great. I mean,
Okay.
I saw it. I didn't see it when I was a kid. That was one of those movies that, I don't think I was allowed to watch because of, the even though you say it wasn't that bloody or violent per se, it still had that connotation because it was like, he's a soldier and he's chewing through deputies. But when I saw it, I think I don't remember how old I was, but I was definitely in my teens, and I liked it. Like you say, it's a nice, tight 93-minute package, and it winds up being like a proto-action movie, and there's a lot to like about it. And it's a classic. I think it really holds up.
I think this movie did a couple other things too for action movies. It introduced the hero that gets beat the fuck up throughout the course of the movie, which kind of culminated with John McClane in Die Hard. Like,
oh yeah, he gets fucked up.
Yeah, the hero just getting his ass chewed up, and like that was a thing in the first two Die Hards, and it kind of got left behind. But I mean, it's in the name. Like that was the idea of that movie, like just watching Bruce Willis get the shit kicked out of him and keep going. But I mean, Rambo gets busted up. He gets chewed on by rats, and he gets that huge cut on his arm, which is falling through the tree. And I swear, even in 4K, looking at that today, the scene where he stitches up his own arm still looks real. It still looks real. It looks absolutely 100% fucking real. I know they just did it with an appliance and were pumping blood out of it with a bowl, but it fucking looks real. And there's like little memorable scenes like that. Like that, I remember that's the thing people always talked about. That's something people left the theater talking about. And of course, the ending with the machine gun.
Oh yeah, that part's gnarly.
Again, he's just mostly shooting stuff. Like he shoots up buildings and he
He's
shoots
shooting
up Transformers, and he does a number on that poor sporting goods store, man. The Outpost blows that poor fucking place all to hell. But he's the only person left is Teasel, and that was a really cool face-off too. The way that was done, I don't know. There's not one thing about this movie that I don't like, and somehow out of the mess that they started with, they kept the right 93 minutes, and it went on to spawn 4 sequels over decades. Yeah, First Blood's a classic, and it should be. And now, immediately, you get to start talking about should they have done it with the second movie, which is tonally and subject matter wise just completely different. But again, I think it informed what action movies were going to be and what they did become by the end of the 80s. And again, I think this is a movie that gets blamed. This is where the idea of Rambo comes from, is this movie.
Oh,
like
yeah, Rambo 2 is
Yeah.
the one that people
The
think
red
of.
bandana, the shirtlessness. Like
Shirtlessness.
he wears a shirt in almost the entirety of the first movie. Like I don't.
Yeah.
It can't. The whole visage, the machine gun, the RPG, the bow, all of it came from the second movie, which is, I love it. I don't care. I already said, it was the first one I watched out of the series. It's what got me into it, and I watch it again and again, every so often, and I still love it, man. I think it's like
It's a good one.
it's really close to an almost perfect action movie, and it hits all the beats that shitty action movies hit. But it does everything just right, and the production value is incredible. Like that movie looks amazing for being shot in 1985 in the middle of the Mexican jungle. It looks great. And so many movies have ripped off of it. Bits and pieces, entire themes, structure. I just watched Commando not too long ago. And I think a lot of people, when they think of Rambo in their head, if they haven't seen the movies and they just think of him as this pop culture character, they what they have in their head is that movie, is Arnold in Commando. Because that is the dumbest, most ridiculous, just
Yeah, Commando sucks.
real
it's great,
physics
but it
should
sucks.
not. Yeah, exactly. Like real physics should not apply. Like this is just a goofy fucking action movie, and I think that's what people think Rambo is. But every one of these movies has something in common in that it takes everything. They all take everything very seriously. Like these are serious movies. Like Rambo doesn't do one-liners. Like there's not jokes. There's not even like action jokes. There's not even like funny deaths.
Slapstick.
Yeah, like there's that part in Commando where Arnold like uses a whole bunch of farm implements to kill guys with machine guns somehow. And it's like a joke. It's like he gets slapsticky at one point, even when he's chopping off arms and shit. Rambo never does that. None of the movies get there.
No, he's like damaged.
Yeah, like there's a gravity to everything. And like the second movie is a classic setup because it's done so many times. And it definitely has been done before Rambo 2. It's just the rescue mission. It's the idea of a rescue mission. And did you know, here's something really cool about this movie. The original script was written by James Cameron.
What?
The original script of Rambo 2 was written by James Cameron, and it starts with Rambo being locked away in a insane asylum instead of the prison. And that's where Troutman goes to get him out for one last mission. But
isn't he like breaking rocks somewhere?
Yeah. But the whole structure of it from there on that's all Cameron. However, in his script, Rambo had a younger buddy, like partner, along with him
Like
on
an
the mission.
apprentice?
And I firmly believe that when they made that movie Sniper with Tom Berenger and Billy Zane, that they had the original Cameron script for Rambo 2, and they're just like, we're just going to tweak this a little bit. Because I've read it. I've read the Cameron script, and it plays almost exactly like Sniper. Almost exactly through that whole, but like even the rescue at the end, it's all the same. And they were thinking of John Travolta when in the early stages.
John Travolta was going to play Rambo's sidekick.
Yeah, like Rambo's like Tom Cruise snot-nosed cocky sidekick.
You know what's funny? How tall is Stallone?
I think he's like 5'10".
Is
so
he?
Like,
I thought he was shorter
like
than
5'8". Yeah, that's Hollywood height, so he's probably like 5'8". He's shrank
But
too.
Travolta's tall.
I think so, right? I don't know.
Could you imagine like skinny beanpole Travolta standing next to shredded little brick shithouse Stallone?
I don't think he's that much taller, man. Sly was probably wearing heels. I'm thinking about that awful movie Staying Alive that Stallone directed, the sequel to Saturday Night Fever.
Oh my God, that's right.
Yeah, and they bump into each other on the street. There's Sly has a cameo, but he's all 70'd up, and he was probably wearing platforms. You can't tell. Now, it would have been very different, but anyway, once they got into the making of it, Stallone was in like full Stallone mode in 1985, and he was just like, nah, like I'm the star of a Rambo movie. If we're doing a Rambo movie, it's going to be about Rambo. And ultimately, it was the right choice, I think.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it
like
was.
that movie is just so much fucking fun, you know? And I think it's hard to, again, you have to think about it in context when you watch it, because so many movies bit off it later that it seems like it's cliched, but it just did a lot of stuff for the first time, you know? Just the idea of the old commanding officer showing up and plying him back into one last mission, like, it's been done a lot. It hadn't been done that many times.
Well, at that point, no,
85.
it hadn't been done a lot yet.
Right. And like, you know, the slow build up and the boat ride in, and it's a great ride, man. And then again, it's a wonderfully paced movie. There's no drag in that movie at all. The villains are crystal clear. All the supporting actors are excellent character actors. The villains are great. Great villains. Same villain from Beverly Hills Cop. That gentleman with the very unfortunate mole in the center of his head that just makes him into a bad guy.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And that giant Russian dude who was awesome. And a bunch of disposable Vietnamese soldiers. I mean, there's a helicopter chase, man. Like, what other movie has a helicopter chase and dogfight? It's fucking awesome, you know?
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
I don't. Did you didn't watch this one either? I guess when you were a kid, then, right?
No, I saw this one much later as an adult.
So that makes me very curious, because it's very like I have to put in a lot of effort to try to look at that movie through different eyes, just because, like I said, I've been watching it I watched it so many times, and since I was so young. So what are your impressions of this one? Like, I guess versus First Blood, but kind of, I don't know, on its own.
I mean, on its own, it's a cool action movie. It's just like you get you get to see Rambo live up to the promise of all of Troutman's all the stuff Troutman says.
The boasting, right?
Yeah, all the boasting. Because in the first one, you're like, he's a one-man army. He could go into anything and come out the last man standing. And then, but he kind of can't do that against the deputies, because there's no moral high ground. There's no moral impetus. He's just trying to survive, essentially. The only guy that dies is an accident. Then you get to Rambo 2, and he's on a clear mission against very clear bad guys. And so the chain comes off, and he gets to go full Rambo on these guys, and the
idea of going back to the camp where he was once a prisoner, which was a Cameron thing. I always loved that, man. You know,
you get fully evolved Rambo in all his glory, like all the stuff that Troutman boasted of. You see it on the screen, and I think that's cool.
And plus, he gets to kill a bunch of Russians, which was so in vogue at the time.
Yes, it was.
Even going back to Vietnam, they managed to figure out a way for him to kill a bunch of Russians. And the knife in this one is my absolute favorite. Jimmy Lyle did the knives for the first two. He was an Arkansas knife smith. And the second one is basically very similar to the first one. The blade shape is a little different. It's a little more Bowie style, and it's a little bigger. It's like 1.5 inches bigger and wider. So it's just the same knife, just jacked up.
It's like a broadsword.
But the cool part of it is that the middle of the blade is black. In the script, he blackens the knife's blade with a flame, which was something guys did in World War II. It was a thing. They would do that to a lot of pieces of gear. But Jimmy Lyle made it with a kind of something that was like a new powder coating for steel at the time, for knife steel. And it just there's this one shot when he first pulls the knife out, when he's in country, when he finally lands, and the way the light hits it, it almost looks like it's glowing except for the black middle, like a sword or something. And just the way it catches light in the movie, I think it, again, was a happy accident, but it just looks awesome. That was the first, I bought a replica of that when I was a teenager. Like, I needed that thing, man.
You know what's funny?
I love that knife.
I'm familiar with that replica.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
You want to know where I last saw it?
Well, when I cut myself in my kitchen?
No. No,
when?
a different time.
What?
So Dave and I used to live together.
Oh, this thing. Oh,
in an apartment. We used to live together in an apartment. I came home from work one day and caught Dave. I think you were watching Rambo. I think Rambo was on TV.
Probably.
Yeah. And you had a Zippo lighter. You were filling a Zippo, and you would use the tip of the knife to pop open the nozzle on the Zippo can. And you were just sitting there
I had the knife handy by my chair for
You're
playing
like, hey, what's
purposes.
up, dude? Just fill in the Zippo tank, and you put the knife on the arm of the recliner you were sitting in, and then you did this little trick to flourish to flick the Zippo open, and then you hit the flint to light it, and you didn't realize you had lighter fluid all over your hand, and your whole hand caught fire.
Yeah,
and at this point, Dave drops the lighter because his hand's on fire, and I don't know if for all those listening out there, Zippos stay lit when you let go. They're windproof. They stay lit. So he lets go. His hand's on fire, but he now has a lit Zippo.
That went out. I shook that out. I shook my hand out. That went out. But now,
No. You're misremembering, dude.
Okay.
I'm telling you, your hand's on fire, and the lit Zippo lighter has fallen onto the chair between your legs, and so you lifted your ass up into the air with your one hand that wasn't on fire, and then your other hand is on fire, and you made the most pathetic sound I've ever heard in my life.
Help.
You just started going, help, help,
help,
help.
help.
I just threw my shit on the ground. I ran over. I grabbed the Zippo lighter off the chair so we don't burn the place down. I closed that. I grab your hand and I pin it against the couch that was next to you, and I swatted that out with a pillow.
Did you?
Yeah, I put your hand out with a throw pillow, man. Thank God we had one handy. I put your hand out, and then you were like, "Oh, thank God!" Oh, and you went to sit back down in the recliner, and then I shouted. I was like, "Stop! Don't fucking move!" And I reached in under your ass because the Rambo knife, the razor sharp Rambo knife, had fallen off the arm of the chair and had wedged itself between the cushion and the arm. It was just sticking straight up, and you were about to sit on how long is that blade? 6-7 inches?
It's 12-inch.
Oh,
blade.
12? Okay, yeah. You almost took a 12-inch Rambo knife straight into the ass cheek. I pulled that bad boy out.
Would have hurt.
And then you collapsed into a heap on the chair and just let out these little whimpering noises for a couple of minutes, knowing that you just survived some real shit.
I mean, I had been sitting peacefully in my chair moments before. This all happened so fast. My hand didn't get burnt. Tom just leapt into action so quickly.
I saved your life, man.
You saved my life, bro. You said, "Oh, help, help." And so every once in a while, he'll just do that to me. When we're in each other's company, he'll just be like, "Hey, help."
Or if you need help with anything in general, like just help. Oh my
It just
God.
reminds me of the time I almost stabbed myself to death and set myself on fire.
I was like half asleep too. I just came off a long ass shift. I walk in and I gotta like leap into action. Oh man!
I was just
So anyhow,
trying to entertain you, man.
It's a cool looking knife. It's the point of the story.
Yeah. That's the knife we cut the wedding cake with. A fresh one, not the one I almost stabbed myself with. And
Right.
bought a new one and got it. Things remembered. And
Incredible.
that's the one we used. Yeah, I don't know. I can't say enough about Rambo 2. Like, we could talk about it. I mean, is there anything that struck you about it?
The
that
bow.
stood out? The bow.
The bow.
Okay.
Yo, I just like. I mean, in terms of, you said that this movie gets blamed for a lot of action movie tropes that people maybe misremember and attribute to Rambo 2, but there is one part that, while being kind of a movie trope, it's also awesome. At the end, when that one guy is like shooting at him, he's standing on that rock in the river, and he's like,
I love it.
he's firing the gun at Rambo, and he's trying to hit him, and Rambo's standing there, stone still, slowly like knocking an arrow with an exploding tip on it, and he's letting this guy take his shots. And then he slowly starts walking towards him, knowing that he's not going to hit him at that range with that little pistol.
No, he doesn't. Who's walking forward?
I think Rambo, like, doesn't he take a step or two forward?
No, he stays stock still on the rock. The other guy scampers away.
Forward.
He shoots from one spot with his pistol. Then he scampers away, further away, and he tracks him with the bow, with the arrow pulled all the way back, and at full draw. And the dude he stops, turns around, and decides to fire one more shot with the pistol. It hits low, and then thunk. And Jesus Christ, man.
He gets blown to kingdom come.
Like, I know it's a dummy in a uniform that gets blown up on a rock. Like, you can even see, like, the stand that it was on after the explosion. But the way it's cut, it just looks so good. It just looks so satisfying. Awesome. It's so fucking satisfying.
He gets obliterated.
Obliterated. And he's like the lieutenant, like the one of the Vietnamese soldiers that actually had an identity. And he's the one who shot Ko earlier.
Yeah, that's right.
He's the one who actually shot her. And so it's some payback there. And Karma immediately bites Rambo in the ass, because that was his last exploding arrow, and then a helicopter comes after him after he wasted the exploding arrow on like one dude. And then that whole sequence, like, it's just awesome sequence after awesome sequence all the way to the end. Like, it just doesn't stop. The bow, it was a Hoyt Spectre, which at the time was like a cutting edge compound bow. And they ended up putting it out as a Rambo model with the logo on it for a while, with all the same accessories. Like, there's a flashlight attached with he never uses in the movie.
How many do you have?
Oh God, no! They're really. I've looked at them on eBay. I've definitely put some in my cart and thought about it, but it would just be something to hang on the wall. You know, like it wouldn't really work. It'd be risky to shoot, even if you got it tuned up. Being so old and all, and Christ, I mean, it's ancient. It's basically a museum piece, but it would look so fucking cool in the movie. There's no way he could have put it together, though, the way they show in the movie. It's just not possible to put a compound bow together that way. But it seemed cool.
Yeah, I didn't know you couldn't do that in the field.
And I didn't for years and years.
I would never
had no
question
idea.
it.
Yeah, I had no clue. It worked for the audience for sure. Just like the exploding arrowheads. Those are just... There was a brand of broadhead with 4 blades at the time, and they came packaged with these protective sleeves over the razors of the broadhead, and they were shaped like cones. clear
were
plastic
cones.
cones. They were cones. Clear plastic cones, and all they did was paint them.
Oh, so like they really don't? Do they are exploding tip arrows real?
No,
Do they really make those?
I think MythBusters did it, and a couple YouTubers like made them, and they did sort of work. But no, it was never a thing. It was fiction for the movie.
Yeah, I never would. I saw him with an arrow with what looked like a little charge on the end. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Exploding arrows.
Yeah, you think about it, and like, if you know, even if you know a little bit about explosives, shaped charges are cone shaped, and you can assume that there's because they give you a couple good close ups of them, and you see this tip, like this really distinctive tip, and you think, all right, so the tip hits something, and it could be like a plunger detonator, and
They look legit.
Yeah, and if even at that size, if that was packed with C4, that would be a nice little explosion, from what I understand. So
You
yeah,
could definitely blow up a lieutenant with one of those.
it's very much more fiction, way less grounded in reality than the first one by a long shot. But it's not cartoonish yet. Like it's wild, but it's not like over that line yet. But it was very, very, very close, very close. And this one was insanely popular. This was the breakthrough for this franchise, for Stallone. Like Rocky was huge, and by then Rocky 3 was out. But this was a different level, and this was worldwide, like all over the place, everywhere. This movie was huge, just because it was a explosion, special effects extravaganza, and also because, I mean, people have pointed this out before. You can watch this movie and not understand English and get the entire story, pretty much.
Yeah, it's pretty clear.
And so that translates very well with subtitles, and it's just a blast. It's a fun movie, and they were definitely going to do another one, but that came out in 85, and we didn't get Rambo 3 until 89. And already the series is a fucking mess of names. The first movie is called First Blood. The second movie is called Rambo, First Blood Part 2. And then for the third one, they just went with Rambo 3. Whatever. Simple. I went to one and only one drive-in movie as a kid, and it was to see Rambo 3.
Oh, yeah?
We showed up late. I missed the stick fighting thing in the beginning. I didn't know that was a thing until we got the movie.
Oh, the stick fighting thing's cool.
I know, it's awesome, but I missed it the first time around. But I distinctly remember watching that in my parents' old Buick at a drive-in movie theater, and it was the kind where you had to tune the radio.
Oh, the FM radio? Yeah.
Yeah, to the right frequency to get the audio through your car speakers. They didn't have the hangy box speaker thing, that old-fashioned shit. It was all advanced and high-tech. I thought it was cool. It was a neat experience. But
Which drive-in did you go to?
I don't even remember where it was. It's not there anymore. That's all I know. I think it was like closing, which is why we went.
We still go to.
My parents took
we still
me.
go to one occasionally. There's a Delsey drive-in.
Yeah, I've heard. I haven't been. And there's a nice one in Vineland.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Is that where it is? Oh,
yeah,
cool.
Delsey
Okay.
Drive-in is in Vineland.
It's old then, right? It's been around.
Yeah, it's been around a while.
Yeah. We should do that one time. That'd be fun.
Yeah, special event, Mr. Falcon.
We can get in the back of the truck, park backwards, and get in the back of the truck.
Oh yeah, get some lawn chairs in there.
Yeah, dude, redneck it up. It'll be fantastic. Bring the Pelican cooler, full of shit.
Yeah, we're doing it.
We're doing it.
Stay tuned.
So let me ask you first on this one. You watched it recently, right? Rambo 3.
I did watch it recently. I'd seen that one probably more than all the others because of when it came out.
So what'd you think?
I mean,
Where does
I
this
like
one
it.
lay with you?
I like it. It definitely suffers from sequel syndrome,
Yeah.
where like we've talked about sequels before, and We always say you put it pretty bluntly, like a good sequel is the same but different, And this one is kind of unclear on what to keep the same and what to make different to keep it a good movie. But at the end of the day, it's entertaining. But it's kind of cheesy, you know.
Oh yeah, it's heavy on
very
cheese.
Corny.
Yeah, I mean it's not to the point where he's dropping one-liners, and it does take itself seriously, but it is cheesy, and it's just like blatantly plays on your feelings, I guess, when it's trying to. It sticks to the same formula that's established in the second one, really. He goes on a rescue mission all by himself, ends up inadvertently getting helped by people along the way, and he gets this big setback and then big victory at the end. But it's a very different setting. We're in the desert. We're in Afghanistan. Helping the Mujahideen fight the Soviets. Charlie Wilson's war shit going on.
That didn't age well.
No. At the time, though, it was really topical, and we were sending Stinger missiles to rebels in Afghanistan to help them fight the Soviets, supposedly proxy war shit. And that's what this was about. And it's really funny. They made the movie, and then I think a couple months before the movie came out, the Soviets pulled out of Afghanistan. And then this movie came out. So, Rambo ends wars. There's something just as a production thing that's really funny about this movie, and no one would notice and care probably but me. But this movie began filming in Israel.
Really?
Yeah. They wanted it to be as close as they could get without being in a ton of danger.
Right.
So they went to Israel, filmed like the whole first half of the movie. So like when the village gets attacked, that by the helicopters, that part was filmed in Israel. Pretty much everything up to when he goes into the fort was filmed in Israel. Unfortunately, there were lots of threats of violence, and at one point, Stallone almost got kidnapped.
Kidnapped?
Yeah. They had tons of security, like commando style security, like special forces dudes, ex-special forces guys. Like it was intense, and it basically just got too dangerous to keep filming in Israel. So they uprooted the entire production and went to Arizona.
Arizona.
And you can tell something if you know gun stuff, especially military shit. There's a lot of, in the first half of it, you see a lot of authentic Soviet firearms, which was extremely rare in a Hollywood movie. It actually was probably one of the very few, if not the only one, that used real Soviet-made firearms, because you just couldn't get that shit through the Iron Curtain at that time to be in a Hollywood movie.
Like AK-47s.
Yeah, like when you had AK-47s or PKMs, they were almost always Chinese-made clones that they would like dress up or not, that just would stand in for the Soviet-made versions. And the differences are very, very small. But if you know what to look for, you can tell. But that big machine gun that he gets on during the village attack that he uses to kill the one chopper, that with those shoulder pads and shit.
Right.
That's a pretty famous Russian heavy machine gun. And it's the only movie that features one, a real one. Huh. And that's because they were in Israel and they were able to get Soviet weapons. But then when they went to Arizona, they couldn't. So they have all the Chinese copies. And in the end, in the big firefight, in the end, he's firing what's supposed to be that same machine gun, but it's just a Browning M2 with a bunch of shit glued on it, like dressed
they
up.
Just like dolled it up.
Yeah, like the gun Troutman fires at the end during the big fight, that big machine gun. That's not even a real gun. They call it I think they call it a pyrotechnic gun. It's an acetylene gun. It's a fake gun, and there's a acetylene tube that runs down the barrel, and it just shoots bursts of flame to make it look like it's firing. And you can see there's like a pilot light. There's a little flame going.
Oh, yeah, I would never have
he's
noticed
not
that.
shooting. It looks like there's something burning in the barrel. And they did the same thing on the chopper pods. That's how they made it look like the chopper rocket pods were firing. If you look, there's pilot lights. There's like little fires burning on the ends of them when it's just flying around. I was a kid. I had no idea. I thought, oh my God, the rockets were so hot. They set some shit on fire. Man, fire. Yeah, I don't know. Just
That's very
stupid
interesting.
Trivia. Yeah, I don't know. I like you said, we were still very much kids when this came out. I have a special spot in my heart for this one.
Yeah, me too. Because of when it came out. But I think the thing that kind of kills it for me is like Rambo. The first one, First Blood, is the story of John Rambo. You get to know him as a character for the first time.
Yeah,
Rambo 2, you get like peak Rambo, all like the payoff of all the myths told about what an insane warrior Rambo is.
In the jungle,
the place that he's in that jungle is tied to him. It's the POW camp that he was imprisoned at. So there's a reason for him to be there that's personal to him. Then you get to Rambo 3.
It makes sense within the story, yeah.
Yeah, and like they just have to like make you feel some sort of way about the place that he's in because he's not tied to it at all. And they do it through like the fucking idiot villagers that are just like, no one can do that. And you can't. You're like, who are you? And then there's the kid running around.
Yeah, there has to be a kid, right?
It's so ham-handed.
That was the thing in movies at the time, man. There always had to be a fucking kid to save. If there wasn't a damsel, there had to be a pain in the ass, spunky kid that would need rescuing at some point. Yeah,
I told you to stay behind.
Yeah, I've there's worse examples of that trope, but
of course
this one isn't good. And yeah, they tried to make it. I appreciate that they tried to be like Rambo's like, no, I don't want to go. Like, I'm not going. It's fucking stupid. I'm not going. And then Troutman goes and gets his ass captured. And he's like, I fucking told you shouldn't go. Now I got to go save your ass. Like, he didn't really want to go.
The reason he's there tracks.
It's Troutman. Yeah, but you're right. It's forced. It's more forced than the second one. I will say he's like in peak, like, the hair is gigantic. He's gigantic.
The hair is something
He's
else.
super tan. Like, he's just uber Rambo in this one, man. Like,
he's your worst
jacked
nightmare.
as shit too. Like, he looks awesome in this one. Everything looks great in this one. And that scene where the self-doctoring with the cauterizing the wound in the side.
Yeah, when he opens up the bullet casing.
It's baller, dude. That's
pretty...
that's up there with the second one didn't have like a super injury gross out thing like that. The worst was the torture scene. I guess that takes the place of it. The getting shocked on the match on the box spring there.
Yeah.
And the
Tango
cut on the
Cash
face.
style.
Yeah. And the cut on the face. I just thought that was a thing that happened to people because so many people were tortured with electricity in movies when I was a kid. I thought it was just something you're going to run into at some point in your life.
Yeah, like quicksand.
Yeah. At some point in your life, you're going to almost die in quicksand, and at some other point, you're going to get strapped to something metal and shocked for information, for fun, whatever. And the knife and the grill, and he burns his face. It's fucking awesome. That's another thing too. Go ahead.
That scene where he's administering first aid with like a bullet and the powder, the black powder and the fire. It's like the scene in Predator. It's like exactly what the Predator's doing. Only
kind of,
like it's Stallone instead of the Predator.
Yeah. I never thought about that. That's true.
He is the Predator.
It's a nice little piece of acting he did. Like, it's not super easy to act like you're in pain when you're not. and like he lets out a good whimper. Like I always think of that scene when I'm hurt real bad. If that, I know it sounds stupid, but I'm always just like, as a kid, especially too. I'm like, if Rambo
You
can
got a little boo boo knee,
for a
and
minute.
you're thinking of John Rambo cauterizing a hole in his torso.
Damn right. Damn
Meanwhile,
right.
you're
Pulling
like,
a
can I
splinter
have a
out of my foot.
Band-Aid?
Pulling a splinter out of my foot. Talking about self surgery, man. It's just like sewing up your own arm. And there's a lot of like moments to like in this. The cave sequence with the bow,
With the glow
is pretty
sticks.
cool. Yeah, with the pointless blue glow sticks. But
Chekhov's glow sticks.
this one is much more actiony, and there's much more like we got to get this in there because it was in the last one, like the bow, like that felt a little forced. Yeah, it's just a little goofier, a little too goofy at some points, but I like it. It's fun.
It is fun. If
And,
nothing else, it's fun.
Yeah, and then at this point, like you had all these like check marks of what makes like Rambo. You got the headband, the shirtlessness, the knife, the bow, and like you got the scars. And as the movies progressed, his scars got more like artistically done. In the first movie, like these are scars from the torture he went through in Vietnam when he was a POW. He was like slashed up. And in the first one, there are these big, long, jagged scars all the way across his chest and his back equally. And by the second one, you really can't see the ones on his back anymore. And they've turned into these like artful, raised scars on his chest. And he has a new one on his arm from the first one. And then the third one, he's got the little one on the artful little G.I. Joe scar on his cheek from the knife in the second one, and the scars have gotten all smaller and even more artistically done. It's bizarre to me, and they're even in the cartoon, like it's like part of his mythos. It's very just dark stuff for a kid's cartoon. Again, I can't believe they went that way. It's fucking crazy. It's fucking crazy. All right, so that was 1989. We got Rambo 3, and then that was it. That was it for a really, really long time.
Yeah. When did the next one come out? What was the gap?
All right, I got to walk that back. Rambo 3 came out. It was actually released in 88, so even further back. Rambo 4 came out in 2008. So,
Jesus.
that's a long time. A full 20 years between sequels is a long time. And so why? I guess you got to ask, right? But I think it's like by 1990, he made Rocky 5 in 1990, and it tanked comparatively to the rest. It didn't, it's not a good one. Everyone regards it as the worst. We do too. We talked about this in like our second episode.
It
stinks. So if you think about it, this came out in 88. Rambo 3 wasn't exactly, it did really well, but it didn't do what the second one did, right? He ends Rocky in 1991, and it's like, all right, he put those characters away. Like those were his two big successes, and it was like he was done with them. Because in the 90s, he did a bunch of dumb shit and a bunch of cool shit. He did comedies, like they sucked. Like they were all bad. I'm sorry. Like none of them were. They were awful. Like Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, which he got tricked into doing by Arnold Schwarzenegger, by the way.
What?
There's this whole thing in that Netflix special where they get interviewed together. They talk about this whole subterfuge with their agents that Arnold engaged in to make Sly think that he was going to do this movie. So he ended up like thinking, his agent ended up thinking he was snaking it out from underneath Arnold and getting it for Sly.
But he just made a dumb movie.
Yeah, Arnold never wanted to make it. Like he was lying the whole time, and he got him to make this awful comedy. That's that one with Estelle Getty. It's so bad. And he did like that Oscar movie, that mob comedy. But then he also did Cliffhanger in the 90s and Demolition Man.
Oh,
And,
yeah, I love Demolition
you know, and The Specialist. And, like, there was that 90s era Stallone. But he stayed away from the old characters. And then he made Rocky Balboa. And it was a hit. And that gave him, I guess, the backing and the inspiration and the confidence of the money people to make another Rambo. And Rambo, it's just called Rambo. The fucking movie, like, to continue with the name ridiculousness of this franchise, Rambo 4 is just called Rambo, unless you watch the director's cut, which is called John Rambo. As I recall, this is your favorite of the series, right?
No, I mean, no, it's not my favorite. The first one's my favorite.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the first
so your
one's
favorite
a classic.
sequel is your
Well,
favorite
yeah, I
sequel?
mean,
Okay.
I like it. I like it a lot. I saw this one kind of like pretty close to when it came out. I watched it with my dad, and you know, we both he saw Rambo as it was happening. I saw it much later, but we had both seen it, and then we're watching this. We have a pretty good idea of what to expect, and man, I was like blown away with how good it was when I had set a really low bar for it. I was not expecting much, but what I got was so much more than what I expected.
Yeah, it's an intense movie, and it really took advantage of the hyper violence that was going on in cinema at the time. Like, it got distributed by Lionsgate, and at the time they were making bank on distributing movies like Hostel and shit like that. You know, they were really into, like, Twisted Pictures. It was getting distributed by them a lot. So he jumped on that, and I was terrified that this movie was going to suck for a long time. Like, it had been 20 years. I never thought there was going to be another Rambo movie. I thought we were safe. Like, there's the 3. Third one isn't that great. Fine. And here comes another one. And it's like, well, the Rocky movie was good. There's no way this one will be good. And I watched it like a hawk all through production, like, looked at every still. When that first trailer came out and they showed that scene of him ripping that dude's throat out, I was so excited. Like, that's just the only way to put it. I'm like, this is going to be fucking crazy. Like, I cannot fucking wait. And I was absolutely rewarded. If anything, it's too short. That's a really brisk movie. But again, I mean, it doesn't leave a lot of room for mistakes and for getting bogged down in crap. And yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's not fun though. It's not like a fun action movie. It's serious. It's dark.
The subject matter is too grody.
Yeah, it had to be.
It's dank.
Yeah, and it's still going on too. Like, Myanmar, Burma hasn't gotten much better.
That movie's banned in that country, I think.
Yeah. I mean, just earlier this year, there was a big story about a bunch of Karen people, tribes people getting massacred by the army. So the very thing that this movie was depicting back in 2008 is still going on right now in that same part of the country. It's a quagmire. I tried to read about it. It's really hard to understand. Like, it's a fucking political mess. But yeah, it was very real, and I think that lent a lot of credibility to it. And also, you know, if you ask the question, what has this character, John Rambo, been doing since 1988? And this is a really perfect answer. Like, he's been living a semi-hermit lifestyle in the jungle, making a living as a fisherman and a blacksmith in a small village, not talking to many people, and just getting angrier and more bitter as the years go by.
Yeah, that tracks.
That works to me. Like, that's way cooler than the Buddhist monastery where we found him in the third one. They never explain how he gets from Afghanistan back to Thailand and back to...
no, they don't.
And then to, you know, I assume that's where he is, on the border with Burma. But, you know, it's been 20 years. All kinds of shit could have happened. He's cool. He's really, he's a darker character in this one. You know, the violence is darker, it's sharper. He has certain feelings, but like he's not happy with himself. He's the director's cut of this. Have you ever seen that, like by
No.
accident or?
No,
It's,
just the regular.
I have to say I like it better. Like I watched both of them back to back not too long ago, and I do like it a lot better. And it's not very different. It just there's a couple alternate takes, which are, I think they're better choices. But there's a little more conversation between him and I'm gonna go up on her name, the woman from Dexter.
Oh, I don't know her name.
Dexter, whatever.
I didn't watch that show.
Yeah, they have a couple more longer conversations, and the conversation they have on the boat before he agrees to take them upriver is longer. And I like it. It's a little bit better of a setup, and it makes his reactions make a little bit more sense. And then they have another conversation on the boat where he explains like how he got there, and it kind of I'm glad they cut it because it kind of fucks with the
I don't
canon.
want to know how he got there.
Well, he basically just tells her that he got drafted in Nam, is what he says. But I don't know. It does kind of line up if you really want to look at it, but like the thought that he was a draftee never really. I never thought of him as a draftee. You know, we know from the second when he joined up, he joined the army in 1964, which was the first year that they held the draft. So either he got real unlucky, or he signed up, but it doesn't fucking matter. The director's cut flows a little better for me. It's just a little bit longer and just a little bit more deliberate, and you get to see the knife from the second movie, which is cool. But he throws it away into the fire like a dick.
What the heck?
Yeah. He's pissed that he had to kill somebody again. Like you get the impression he's gone a number of years without having to kill a human being, and he goes to help these dickhead missionaries, and he has to murder a whole boat full of people. Justifiably, but still. And he's pissed about it. So it's when he's setting their boat
like
on fire.
river pirates or something.
Yeah, they're going to take her and do things to her. But yeah, he pulls out the knife from the second one and is punching holes in the fuel cans. And when he sets the whole thing on fire, he throws his knife into it in like anger, which is the reason why he has to make another one. But they just left that out of the theatrical one, and it worked just fine. That was cool, though, right? The knife forging.
Oh, yeah, when he has to make a new one, it's awesome.
Yeah. So this is going to lead to my a point that I think is pretty cool. In you know how we talked about when he did the Rocky and then Creed came out, and it was kind of like Creed was his way of making the story from Rocky V again, but good.
Right, yeah, a retread.
Yeah. This movie is basically a retread of Rambo 3. Like, the whole structure of it, all of it. And there's a deleted scene from Rambo 3 where in the Buddhist monastery, he forges his own knife that he ends up taking to Afghanistan with him. And they cut it because it did look pretty goofy, and it's like intercut with shots of him opening up his foot locker that he somehow has, and like his uniform is in it. It's really goofy. But the idea was there back in '88. So that got recycled. The idea, it's a rescue mission for somebody else that he begrudgingly goes on in the first place because he didn't want to take the missionaries upriver. He didn't want Troutman to go to Afghanistan.
Yeah, he says no a bunch, and they're
Right.
just persistent.
And that's the other thing, too, this weird idea, like the word Rambo and the idea of Rambo in pop culture has come to mean someone that's like alpha male and extremely aggressive, right? That's the one thing consistent through all these movies is Rambo's always going to rescue someone, and he always gets dragged into it kind of against his will. You know, he's never the one saying, riding off into battle as a first solution. That's the Arnold movies. Like that's Steven
My ring's
Seagal.
outside.
Hey, over my ring's outside. and then again at the end when the big battle starts, the rebels show up to help him, just like the end of Rambo 3. Like it's like he did Rambo 3 just better and more intense and more realistic. So
Yeah, I'll buy that. Yeah, it does share a lot with Rambo 3, but it's just executed better. And man, I'll say this. Like the story's pretty stripped down. It's got a much better pace, I think, than Rambo 3 does.
yeah.
It zips along. At movies, it's not long. But man, they really try to like cram it all in. And God, that is one of the bloodiest fucking movies I've ever seen in my life. I watched that one recently. And God, like it's just not, I'm not talking just like the body count, but like the gore in it is insane. It is gory as hell.
Because the one in '88, you weren't seeing things like the number of times Rambo fires a firearm and you see a person get hit in the same frame, like you can count them, you know. But with the advancements of CG and everything else, by the time they made the fourth one, you've got the 50 cal like cutting people's legs off and shit as he's mowing them down. It's fucking wild.
When he spins the 50 cal around on the guy that's driving the truck.
Truck driver,
it's mounted on. And they just
after cutting the dude's head off, right? And then he spins it around and
he spins the 50 cal around on the cab of the truck, and it's like they just threw like cranberry juice concentrate all over the windows. It's just
the bloody chunk of what the guy used to be just falls out of the seat. It's so fucking grody, man.
Gnarly as hell.
That's a Browning M2 50 caliber machine gun that they mounted in that truck. And I remember when they were making it and the behind the scenes stuff, the idea was originally that he was going to carry the thing.
Oh God, forget it.
And like he could stand there and he could hold it, and they tried it and he could fire it with blanks, of course, but he couldn't really move with it, you know? So they're like, all right, we're going to mount it in this truck. So they mounted it in that truck. And the first time they tried to fire the blanks from it, it ripped itself right out of the fucking bed of the truck. So they had to weld a big steel plate onto the chassis and then bolt it to that. And then finally it worked. It's a fucking fearsome machine that's been around since World War II. And our military and a lot of other militaries still use it because it just fucking works. And, fired a big goddamn bullet, man. Those cartridges are huge. And that's the kind of damage it really does do. Like that thing's accurate up to like 2 miles. It's crazy.
That final scene when he's just like mowing people down, it's crazy.
And I love how the mercenaries who are, stripped of all their shit and on their knees getting ready to be executed, they immediately jump in and start grabbing whatever the fuck they can. Like the one dude, the British guy, he's got one working leg and one working arm, and he's still grabbing dudes and like headbutting them to death. Like it's fucking brutal, dude. It's what a brutal fucking just showdown at the end. And that little prick commander, he kills like one of the surviving doctors and shit just to be an asshole. He shoots him in the back. What a loathsome little fucker, man. He barely speaks. They did such a great job making him a shithead. And
did you notice did the other thing they did to make him like infinitely more hateable?
Made him a pedophile? Yeah.
Yeah, my sister pointed that out. Like, as he's leading a boy into his cabin, my sister just goes like, as if he wasn't evil enough, they made him a pedophile. So now he absolutely has to die.
I mean, you have to feel okay about it when he literally gets gutted at the end with that giant
he gets like
knife.
disemboweled.
What a wonderful fucking just capper, dude. And you get that music flourish right there too. And we got a tip of the cap to good old Jerry Goldsmith. He's done the soundtrack for so many fucking movies. He's an incredible composer. And he was there from the beginning. He did First Blood. And that movie has a lot of drums and brass and very military-esque sounds and instruments in it. with a mournful trumpet. It's all patterned after the song they play over the credits. It's all that melody. And then the second one from '85, there's a lot of Eastern sounds, like South Asian sounds, Southeastern Asia worked into it, but all the drums and the bass are all real synthy, to make it sound modern while keeping the same melodies. And he basically just reused it again for Rambo 3. And then this one's completely different, but they kept the cues and the flourishes just enough for it to be familiar. And they use them in all the right spots, too. And, the one last thing in this one, the dream sequence. When they show the pieces from the other movies.
Wait, who's
all
dreaming
cut together.
In this one?
Rambo. When he's dreaming in the hammock.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
When I saw that in the theater, I almost cried. It was so fucking cool, dude. Like 20 years is a long time. And to be happy about what got... I'm so glad he fucked up the fifth one and not the fourth one. And then that brings us to Rambo Last Blood.
Oh, Rambo Last Blood. Yeah.
It's not great.
Not good.
This came out in 2019. It's almost a whole nother 10 years after the last one. When I first saw this, I described it as Rambo, but if a horror movie. And that's kind of what it is. And the story isn't great. Like, I could come up with better routes for this story to go from the same starting point that would make it way more interesting and way more realistic. And there's just beats. There's things that happen in this that don't make any sense to me. And I've tried. I watched it multiple times. I've seen the extended cut, which is better, but it doesn't fix the problems it has. But let me ask you, like, what do you, many. What's the worst part about this one for you?
I mean, it's the fact that it's basically an adult version of Home Alone.
Yeah, it does get there.
He literally, Kevin McAllister's his whole house, with his little battle plan. And he's got his, as Joe Pesci puts it, his little house of horrors set up for all the people. And I know that there was some precedent there because in the first one, they showed that he's like a master of bushcraft and setting deadly traps for people. But he
also uses, in the first one, he uses all traps that they actually used against U.S. forces in Vietnam.
Yes, they were like appropriate to what he was supposed to know how to do at the time.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff in the fifth one were the same, though.
Oh, really?
Most of those things were based on real traps, just using different materials because he used what he had around the farm. But like the one where he's got the rifle cartridges set into the ground, and when the guy steps on them, they go off. That was legit. Like, that was something U.S. troops ran across in Vietnam.
Interesting.
They would steal the 50 caliber and even the 30 caliber shells, and they'd put a nail underneath the primer, and when you stepped on the cartridge, it would be just enough to like blow a piece of a foot off. And the punji stakes, he does a couple of those. The one where the pitchfork swings down, that would have been done with sharpened bamboo instead, or pieces of whatever. There's the one where he jams sharpened poles through the wall and stabs a dude. I looked at it, and that was real. Like some of those traps are what they ran across in the jungle, but some of the traps are what they ran across in the tunnels in Vietnam.
Right.
And I thought that was kind of a neat nod that they didn't really explain. Like, that's why he dug the tunnels underneath, because he knew how, and he had experience with using them from the war. I don't know, man. There's a lot of cool beats, but altogether it just didn't gel. Like it didn't flow, and it didn't feel like a Rambo movie. He doesn't have the hair.
No,
Like,
the hair's not there. The look is different. It takes place at his house and not
and it takes
like
place in civilian
some
life.
crazy far off locale.
Right. Like the first one was in civilization, and he was a criminal. So basically, that's what they're bringing him back to. But then there's also this human trafficking angle, and I don't know. It's just very muddy. It's very, very muddy. Whereas all the other ones were very clear and straightforward, and also like, why does he walk into the situation that gets him like almost killed? Like I still can't understand what the fuck his plan was. Like he just walks into this place. Like the only thing I can think of is that the pills he's taken make him fuzzy, and he just wasn't between that and like the anger over his adopted daughter going missing. Like I just can't understand why he just how he just strides right in to the midst of all these Mexican cartel bad guys and expects to survive. Like I just don't get it.
It makes no sense.
It makes no fucking sense. And the end sequence is cool. But also there's a beginning to this movie that they cut for some reason. I'll never understand it, but there's a whole different beginning to this film where he rescues a couple people from a flood on horseback.
Okay.
During a serious storm in the night. And it's a neat intro. It shows what he's been up to, like, because you hear the local law enforcement talking about him as like this non-burnout who helps him with tracking stuff every once in a while, and you get an idea of where he is in his head better instead of just getting thrown into it, you know. And also you find out why the fuck he plays the Doors song later on, why he plays 5 to 1 in the tunnel, because you see him play it like as his like chill out shit in his underground lair. I guess he listened to it during the war, maybe. I don't know. The Doors were big in Nam, which was a real shock to me, by the way, seeing this in the theater. Like, I'm a Doors super fan.
Oh, yeah,
like,
that's it.
and
That's the other thing you got to know about Dave.
Watching this movie in the theater, and then all of a sudden Rambo puts on a Doors tape. I'm like, what the fuck?
He's
am I
like
having a stroke?
me.
I'm having a stroke. Lenny, am I having a stroke? Like, it was very confusing. But yeah, and he's also so violent, and it's so visceral. Like, he's like Michael Myers level when he goes through that place killing dudes with a hammer, and he cuts that guy's head off, and then the end, with the heart, he cuts a dude's heart out, man.
Yeah, it gets pretty intense.
Like, that's not the guy who saved the little Afghani kid in Rambo 3.
Right, yeah,
sure.
They took the total opposite approach that they were going for with part 3.
I personally think they should have just left it. He should have left it, unless he had gotten a better story. He should have just left it to end the way Rambo 4 ended. Him coming home, full circle. That was a nice, neat ending for the character that let you just wonder whatever you wanted, Yeah, that's it. I mean, I don't want to shit on it too much. It's not good. It didn't do good. It wasn't popular.
Right.
I don't see any way for them to ever make another one. Thank God. I'm sure they're going to try to remake it at some point. I know that I half expected to see like First Blood with Ryan Gosling or some shit.
Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, I can't think of any actors today that could pull it off. And also, I wouldn't want to see it. Like, you can't update this for the global war on terror. You can't make this a modern vet story. And I don't think they're going to make a modern movie about a Vietnam vet. So, and I don't want to see a prequel of any kind, because they were kicking that idea around, a TV show with a new, different actor. It's pointless to me. It's absolutely pointless. So I just hope he just leaves it alone. It was called Last Blood. I'll just pretend he died on the porch, I guess, and Yeah.
Eating his Werther's Originals.
Yeah. All right. So you say.
Well, I'll preface this. You know more. You know more about these movies than like anybody that I know.
I don't know. Yeah. Anyone you know, probably, yeah, sure.
And I want to know how well you know them.
Oh, shit. Okay.
I'm curious.
Pressure.
So we have some questions for Dave, and I'm gonna not to be disappointing, but you already answered half of one of the questions that I had.
Shit.
So
I'm sorry.
like you just in passing, I'm like, shit, he knows that one. But just to start off, let's see how far Dave's knowledge goes. Rambo 2, right?
Yeah.
I was going to ask a question about where that movie was filmed because they had trouble finding Asian extras to be in that movie because of where it was filmed. And you already mentioned where it was filmed. You remember where you remember where it was, right?
It was in Mexico.
Yeah, it was the jungles of Mexico.
I think it was near Cancun, but I'm not sure.
Right.
I just remember it was near a big tourist destination because they would talk about how they would party real hard when they got done filming because they were like, yeah, it seemed like we were out in the remotest jungle, but we were like right next to like this huge resort.
That's kind of nice.
Yeah. I think they filmed Predator in Mexico too, by the way.
Yeah, I think they did.
Yeah.
Well, that being said, you already said Rambo 2 was filmed in Mexico, but filming in a location like that made it hard for them to find Asian extras to be in the movie. So my question is, where did they find them?
Where did they find them?
Yeah.
I don't know. I know that the female lead is Hawaiian, not Asian. I don't know.
I see. I didn't know she was Hawaiian. I mean, she played a pretty convincing Vietnamese person. So the answer to this is that because they were in a resort town, there were a lot of restaurants. So
really? Okay.
Yeah, there were Asian restaurants. They went around to every Asian restaurant they could find to just look for people that looked appropriate to be extras in these movies.
We got Koreans, we got Chinese folk, we got everybody playing Vietnamese over here. That's funny.
They just found Asians living in Mexico working at the restaurant.
See, I wouldn't even expect there to be a plethora of Asian restaurants in Mexico in the 80s. That's wild.
I mean, apparently there was enough of them around for them to film the movie. So
radical. All right.
So here's my other question.
You got more? Oh, there's more. Okay.
I got one more. I got one more big one. Right? So the Rambo movies have a reputation for being just violent, right? Lots of bodies, right? They do a spoof on it in Hot Shots. They're talking about the body count is higher than Rambo, higher than Die Hard,
RoboCop,
higher than RoboCop.
Yeah.
So yeah, he goes chewing through people in Rambo 3. So when Rambo 3 came out, it was so over the top that the Guinness World Records recognized the film as being the most violent film of all time at that time, with how many deaths recorded?
How many deaths?
Now, I've seen conflicting results on this in my research, so if you get either one of them, I'll give it to you.
I'm going to say that it was in the 80s somewhere. That's my closest answer, 80-something.
All right. So the low number that I saw was 108.
No way. Really?
Yeah. And the higher number I saw was 115.
It can't be. You think? I guess between the two, like the helicopter attack on the village and the big battle at the end, I guess, yeah.
So I think the confusion comes in is like how many people died versus how many people were personally dispatched by John Rambo himself.
Yeah, I was just going to say he wasn't mowing down acres of soldiers like Arnold did in Commando all by himself.
Right.
Like, he had an entire army come help him at the end, and and all those people that get killed in the village, they're all killed by the Russians.
Yeah.
In
So,
helicopters.
but like the question is the body count.
Yeah, no,
not necessarily Rambo.
Even then, I wouldn't have thought it was that high, but I'll believe people who watched it and counted everybody who died, because there, at one time, I'm going to say that this was for work because I used it for work, but I actually watched the entire gunfight from John Wick in the bathhouse club.
Oh man, that seems insane.
I watched it so many times because I was counting how many rounds he fired and how many mag changes he went through to see if it lined up with reality. And
did it?
Yeah, it kind of did. Like there's like one conceit, because the gun he has only holds 15 rounds with standard magazines. So if you just take the conceit that he had extended mags that held 3 extra rounds, it does track through the entire gunfight. He doesn't have too many mags. He does just the right number of mag changes, and when he runs out, he should have run out.
Okay.
It's pretty impressive. And the cool thing is there's the one part right in the beginning when he's fighting that first dude with the towel. He flips over and his jacket comes up, and you can see everything that's on his belt. So you can
he's
count.
got him on him. Yeah.
Yeah, you can count how many magazines he has. You can see them all very clearly, and they don't materialize out of nowhere. He uses exactly what he's supposed to have on him, including that backup Glock that he's got. That's a great sequence, man. One of the best sequences out of any action movie ever. Fucking, and plus the music just fucking thumping, dude.
Yeah.
It's a great scene.
That's a cool scene.
It's a great scene. Yeah, that really gave me some hope. Like Rambo 4 was a return to like action as a spectacle, I think. And then the John Wick movies just made it fun again. You know, like
because like you said earlier, Rambo 4 is dour.
Yeah,
you know, it's an action movie, but it's not fun.
Right.
It's just I enjoyed it, but man, it's a dark movie. And then you get to John Wick, and it's not only is it like a crazy action movie, but it's a ton of fun.
All right, I'm going to leave you with 2 little things.
Okay,
some side homework if you ever get inspired. In 1985, Chuck Norris started one of his few films he did that had sequels. He did 3 missing in action, they were called, movies.
Yeah.
And the plot of one of them is very, very close to the plot of Rambo 2.
Okay.
But Rambo 2 came out just a bit before it. But if you ever get a chance, watch the first 2 missing in action movies. They are, there's something, man. There's something. I'd like to watch them with you.
All right. Yeah, we could do that.
Wild examples of like exploitation movies still being made in the 80s. It's incredible. And the other one is just a great movie that you should watch and you would really like. And if you've seen it, I'm going to be psyched. It's called Uncommon Valor.
Uncommon Valor.
Yeah.
That's really who's in that?
Gene Hackman is the lead, but it has a hell of a cast. It's from 1983. So like that's what I was saying, how First Blood kind of opened the door for movies like this to start getting made. It's a movie about Gene Hackman is a retired colonel who's from served during World War II, whose son is a POW/MIA from Vietnam. So it's 1983, and he finds out he's never stopped looking for him, and he finds out that he's being held at this prisoner camp in Cambodia, I think it is. And he basically recruits an A-team style team of dudes that served with his son and to go back and rescue him. And plus there's one younger soldier in there played by Patrick Swayze. Who's part of the team. Yeah, like I think he got dishonorably discharged for attacking his commanding officer or something.
with a gorgeous roundhouse kick.
Goddamn right. He does some K-rate. He does some karate in this one, because the rest of the cast includes good old Randall Tex Cobb.
Oh yeah,
who you know from Raising Arizona, the best.
The toughest son of a bitch to ever step in a boxing ring.
And man, he's got some lines in this one too. And you got Robert Stack, you got Fred Ward is also in this.
Remo Williams?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And Reb Brown probably isn't going to... These are guys you'll know when you see their face. Harold Sylvester, another great character actor, played a cop a lot. Tim Thomerson. I just saw him in Near Dark. You remember that vampire movie that Bill Paxton did?
No, you told me about it. I've never seen that movie, but you recommended it.
Yeah, he's in that. I just saw him in that. He had a white silver hair, like Richard Gere, like prematurely silver hair.
Huh.
He was in the Bill Bixby Incredible Hulk movie too when we were kids. It's just a really cool ensemble cast, and it's one of those like mission movies. You know what I mean? Like there's the recruiting phase, and then there's the training phase. Like they build a replica of the camp that they're going to attack to train on, and which is something that Special Forces actually did. The Green Berets would actually do that for operations in Vietnam. They invented that practice, and there's this whole, and then they actually go into in country, and all the weapons they thought they were going to use, they lose everything, and they have to go to some shady
start from scratch.
They do, and they go to some like shady arms dealer, and he gives them all this junk like World War II shit, and that's what they end up pulling the mission off with, like Thompson submachine guns and old 1911s. And it's just so fucking cool, dude. And then the big rescue scene at the end, like you gotta, if you ever come across it, it's worth a Sunday afternoon kind of watch.
And this one is Uncommon Valor.
Uncommon Valor from 1983. Yeah. And Gene Hackman is a certified fucking badass in it too. Like he doesn't like sit back and like orchestrate. My man's got a bandana on and a fucking machine gun, and he's like in it with all of them. It's fucking baller. It's baller. Check it out, man. And it's also an early example of the team up where every character is like a G.I. Joe character. Like they all have, like,
with their little specialty or whatever.
Yes. There's the surfer dude who's the demolition expert. There's Tex Cobb plays a dude named Sailor who was never in the Navy, who does a ton of hallucinogens and likes to do like weird Tai Chi, but he also wears a grenade around his neck. And
it sounds like the guy from Raising Arizona.
And his motto is he wears it so that whenever he feels like it, he can pull the pin to see what's next. So he always has like an escape hatch in the form of a grenade around his neck. Like it's excellent.
Yeah,
it's
as
excellent.
one does.
There's the chopper pilot. Like it's just fucking it's a blast, dude. It's a blast. And they're just Rambo adjacent. Like they just, to me, they all kind of roll together.
Made possible by Rambo.
Yeah, made possible by First Blood. All right. Thank you very much for indulging me in this deep dive into the Rambo franchise.
Hey, man. My pleasure.
The only way to survive a war is become war.
Nothing is over!
Nothing! Gizmo.